Picture this. A Japanese mother sits on the floor across from her 1-year-old. The baby is struggling to fit a wooden block into a shaped hole. The block keeps slipping. The baby's face scrunches. A small frustrated sound escapes. And the mother does nothing. She doesn't reach over. She doesn't guide the tiny hand. She doesn't even lean forward. She just watches, with calm, steady eyes, and the faintest trace of a smile. To a Western parent watching this scene, it might look like neglect. Or indifference. Or at the very least, a missed opportunity to help. But what if that moment of doing nothing is actually one of the most powerful things a parent can do for a baby's developing brain? Researchers in developmental psychology have spent decades studying why children raised in Japan consistently show higher levels of cognitive persistence, emotional regulation, and focused problem solving from as early as age 2. And what they keep finding surprises people who expect the answer to involve flashcards, educational toys, or structured learning programs. The answer is almost always simpler than that. And quieter. In this video, you are going to learn the core habits embedded in Japanese parenting culture that silently build IQ from the earliest months of life. Not theories. Not generalizations. Specific, observable behaviors that shape the brain in ways most Western parents have never been told about, and some that directly contradict what we have always been encouraged to do. Stay with this. It matters more than you might think. Here is what most Western parenting culture quietly teaches you, often without saying it out loud. That a good parent is an active parent. That your job is to respond, engage, stimulate, narrate, and fill every moment with something enriching. That silence is a gap to be filled. That struggle is a problem to be solved. That the faster you step in, the safer and smarter your baby will grow. And most parents do this from a place of pure love. That is important to say clearly. The instinct to help, to soothe, to guide, that instinct is not wrong. But developmental psychologists have found that when that instinct is applied without pause, without restraint, without any tolerance for productive discomfort, it quietly works against the very cognitive growth parents are trying to protect. There is a term used in child psychology called scaffolding. It refers to the support a caregiver provides around a child's learning. The research is clear that some scaffolding is essential. But what the same research also shows, consistently, is that too much scaffolding, stepping in too quickly, solving too readily, praising too loudly, actually interrupts the neural process that builds independent thinking. The baby's brain never gets the chance to do the work it was designed to do. Most Western parents have never been told this directly. Instead, they have been handed a model of parenting that prizes responsiveness above almost everything else. And responsiveness is valuable. But it has a shadow side that rarely gets discussed. Meanwhile, certain habits embedded in Japanese parenting culture have been quietly producing something measurable for generations. Children who can focus longer, tolerate frustration better, and approach new problems with curiosity rather than anxiety. And the gap between these outcomes and what researchers observe in many Western children does not come down to genetics, or resources, or even education. It comes down to a small number of daily habits that most Western parents have simply never been introduced to. That is exactly what you are about to see. There is a Japanese concept called kanai, and the way it lives inside parenting is not something Japanese mothers typically explain or announce. It is simply practiced. It means, roughly, the ability to endure, to wait, to sit inside discomfort without immediately escaping it. And it begins being modeled for babies far earlier than most Western parents would expect. Here are the specific habits where this shows up, and what each one does inside your baby's brain. Habit 1: Strategic non-intervention. When a Japanese baby struggles with a task, reaching for something just out of range, figuring out how a simple object works, trying to pull themselves upright, the caregiver's default response is to wait. Not indefinitely, and not coldly, but long enough for the baby's brain to fully engage with the problem. Developmental psychologists call this the struggle window, the brief period of frustration before a baby gives up, during which the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for problem solving and decision making, is most actively building new connections. Every time a parent closes that window too early by rushing in, that neural work stops. The brain learns that discomfort will always be removed from the outside. And over hundreds of repetitions across the first 3 years of life, that lesson accumulates. Habit 2: Silence as a teaching tool. Western parenting culture places enormous value on narration. Talk to your baby constantly, the advice goes. Name everything. Fill the room with language. And language exposure is genuinely important. But Japanese parenting draws a distinction that Western culture rarely makes: the difference between language that enriches and noise that overwhelms. Japanese caregivers tend to speak to babies in shorter, more intentional bursts, followed by genuine silence. Researchers studying early auditory processing have found that babies actually need those quiet intervals to consolidate what they have just heard. Silence, in this context, is not absence. It is processing time. It is the space where language becomes meaning. Habit 3: Allowing natural consequences within safe limits. When a baby reaches for something and drops it, the Japanese parenting instinct is not to immediately retrieve it. When a toddler spills, the first response is not to rush in with a cloth. These moments, small and mundane as they appear, are treated as information the child needs to receive. Developmental psychologists describe this as cause and effect learning in its purest form, and research consistently shows that babies who experience these natural feedback loops early develop stronger executive function, the cognitive skill set that includes planning, impulse control, and working memory, by the time they reach school age. Stop here for a moment. Think about your average morning with your baby. How many times in a single hour do you intervene before the struggle has had even 30 seconds to breathe? Not because you are doing something wrong, but because everything around you, every piece of parenting advice, every instinct you have been encouraged to trust, tells you that faster is better and help is always helpful. What if some of the most important brain-building moments in your baby's day are the ones that feel, to you, like the hardest ones to sit through? Habit 4: Repetition over novelty. Japanese parenting tends to favor the same simple toys, the same songs, the same daily rhythms repeated over and over rather than constantly introducing new stimulation. Neuroscience supports this more than most parents realize. Repetition is how the infant brain builds the deep neural pathways that underpin long-term intelligence. Novelty creates excitement. Repetition creates architecture. Here is what none of this is saying. It is not saying that Western parents love their children less. It is not saying that responding to your baby is wrong, or that warmth is a weakness, or that you should become a distant observer in your own child's life. None of that is true, and none of that is what the research points to. What it is saying is something quieter and, in many ways, more hopeful than that. It is saying that some of the most profound gifts you can give your baby's developing brain do not require you to do more. They require you to trust more. To trust that your baby's frustration is not a crisis. To trust that the silence between you is not emptiness but connection. To trust that when your baby struggles and you hold yourself back, you are not withdrawing your love. You are extending it in a direction that goes deeper than comfort. Developmental psychologists who study early attachment and cognition together have found something that tends to stop parents in their tracks when they first hear it. The babies who develop the strongest cognitive resilience, the ones who can focus, persist, regulate, and eventually think independently, are not the ones whose parents intervene the least. They are the ones whose parents learn to be fully, warmly present while allowing difficulty to exist in the same room. That combination, presence without rescue, is extraordinarily rare. And extraordinarily powerful. You already have the most important ingredient. You are here, watching this, thinking carefully about your baby's inner world. That quality of attention, that willingness to look closer and question the automatic, is itself something your baby feels. Children do not only learn from what we do. They learn from the quality of awareness we bring into the room with us. The mother on that train, watching her baby struggle with the block, was not doing nothing. She was doing something ancient and precise and deeply loving. She was saying, without words, I believe you can do this. You are capable of more than you know. And I am right here. Here is the one thing you can try today. The next time your baby is working through something hard, reaching, figuring, struggling, frustrated, set a quiet timer in your mind. Give it 60 seconds before you step in. Just 60 seconds of warm, present, patient watching. You do not have to say anything. You do not have to fix your face into a particular expression. Just stay close and let the work happen. Notice what your baby does when the solution stays just out of reach for a little longer than usual. You may be surprised by what you see. That one small shift, practiced consistently, is not a parenting hack. It is a reorientation. And over weeks and months, it compounds into something your child will carry long after they have forgotten every toy, every class, and every carefully chosen educational moment you ever gave them. If this video made you think about your baby differently, even for a moment, subscribe to this channel. Every week we go deeper into the science of how your baby's mind is actually growing, written for parents who want to understand, not just be told what to do. Your baby's brain is extraordinary. And so is your instinct to understand it.